Hey guys, how's it going? Chris from Broadview here. This next video has to do with the subject of dating. And this is a subject where you're gonna find a lot of advice in so many places. On the internet, you're gonna find advice that will take you in every direction imaginable. And how do you know which one to pick? Which one's right for you? You don't know. All you can try to do is trust your best judgment and just kind of go for it. Take a dive, take a risk. Maybe there will be some rejection involved, maybe not. Maybe you'll be the one doing the rejecting. I mean, you never know how it's gonna work out. But anyway, I just think that it's, a world today where we don't get a lot of solid advice. Our parents, of course, give us the birds and the bees talk because they want us to be safe and they don't want us to get hurt and they don't want us to make a decision that could affect the rest of our lives. But honestly, before you get to the birds and bees situation with another person, there's like a lot of steps in between when you first meet that person and that most intimate moment which your parents are trying to prepare you for. So as far as getting that first date going, that's what this video is having to do with. It's going to give you some tips on what to do when you're going on your first date, how to get the first date, and then it's going to give you some tips to avoid, to totally not do, just kind of like for food for thought, and some fun stuff and kind of funny. So I think you're going to have a laugh, and hopefully you'll get some good insight and information, some advice to kind of guide you and maybe give you a little confidence boost. It'll help you approach the next person that you think you might be romantically involved with, and that's what we're here for, right? So cool. I hope you enjoy the video, guys.
Male or female, asking another person out on a date can be an event filled with anxiety and awkwardness. Or it can be just as cool as the breeze on the first day of autumn. I mean, we grow up and attend school to learn everything under the sun, but no one teaches us the nuances of dating. What worked a decade ago may be considered an antiquity today. We've offered two scenarios of how to approach dating for both men and women. Imagine there are two realities: the real world and alternative world. Alternative world is where up is down, left is right, round is square, high is low, and success is failure. It's a world where you think doing the right thing is actually the wrong thing. You get the picture? It's really not far off how people exist in everyday life. We'll look at how men and women should approach asking each other out in the real world and how they might take the same approach in alternative world. First, here are some valuable tips on how a woman can ask a man out in the real world.
As a woman, you may feel a bit uneasy asking guys out. If you're a confident woman, you shouldn't fear it at all. We've got the solution for 7 ways to ask a man out on a date. Here's how to break the ice. Number 1, break the ice by asking him out on a group date. This works if you fear rejection. Not everyone can take rejection. The worst case scenario is that you end up being just friends. It'll be a win for you either way. Number 2, ask the guy out for a cup of coffee. It's a safe way to get to know someone and can help minimize the risk of rejection. You won't have to spend a lot of money, and there's no alcohol to dull anyone's senses. Number 3, extra ticket approach. Some women don't mind inviting a guy to an event with an extra ticket approach. It all depends on the event as well. Is he likely to go to a sporting event or to a music concert? Make sure it's an event he'll like, and make sure you have a backup friend just in case he declines as well. Number 4, find out if you have mutual interests. The key is to ask a guy out on a date without him knowing it. Do it in a natural way. If you both have hobbies in common, it could lay the groundwork for an outing together. If he's into the activities you like, there's a good chance he'll agree to accompany you. Number 5, a cheesy pickup line. You may even want to throw out a cheesy pickup line. The goal is to get a laugh out of the gentleman. It's a move that eases the uncertainty. At the very least, you may be able to open the door for some interesting discussions. Number 6, let him know that you're interested. This is an indirect approach and may or may not go over well with the guy. Get a friend to walk over to the guy of interest and let him know that you're interested. Just make sure this doesn't backfire against you. The guy just might respect the woman with enough courage to approach him. Number 7. How to effectively use body language. Flirting goes all the way back to the beginning of time. Unfortunately, fewer women than you would imagine know how to effectively use body language. You can get a guy to ask you out by giving him a huge dose of attention. There are always ways to approach guys for a date. The most important thing is to hold on to your integrity in the process.
Here's how women would ask men out in alternative world. Number 1. Ask the man out on a group date, and all of you ladies who show up can bring your Nerf zombie foam bats to beat some sense into him if he gets out of line. And rest assured, he will. Number 2. Invite a guy out for a cup of coffee. Make him pay for the bill and let him know up front you've already made up your mind he's not the one. This way, there's absolutely no risk of rejection. Men often like chasing something they can't have in both worlds. Number 3. Make sure the guy buys you and a lady friend tickets to an event. This way, all 3 of you can attend. And if you get tired of him, and you likely will, you and your girlfriend can ditch him. Make sure it's an event he'll hate. Number 4. Find out what activities he likes and then avoid them. The goal is to get off on the wrong foot. He'll think it's a challenge he can win. Number 5. Don't just throw out a cheesy pickup line. Bring some actual cheese on the date. The best cheese that comes to mind is called Casu Marzu. It's made from Sardinian sheep milk and contains live insect larvae. Number 6. Let him know you're not interested in him today, tomorrow, or anytime in the near future. This works in any world. If you want someone's attention, make it known you're not interested. Number 7. Don't believe everything you hear. There's not a woman in the world who doesn't know how to effectively use body language. The less attention a man gets, the more interested he'll become.
I'm totally loving some of these ideas for women picking up on men. I know as a man that it's not as often that a woman is coming up to me and asking me to go on some kind of a date or to go to a group event or something with their friends. But it's pretty nice when it happens because it's kind of low effort and you can say yes or no. I mean, usually a lot of times in society it's put to men that they're the ones that are supposed to be making the move, but it's not always like that. Oftentimes it's totally not like that at all. I mean, in the world of Tinder, people are swiping left, they're swiping right, and it's kind of a mutual agreement and then it happens. I just love the bit about the Nerf zombie bats. I don't know why. I'm actually like playing that out in my mind as a real scenario. And it actually sounds kind of fun. Like, imagine I just get asked out on a date and I show up and there's just a bunch of women there and they just all approach me with Nerf zombie bats. I might go with that actually. That might be like I don't know, that could turn into kind of a crazy situation. But I like the idea, for instance, of going out for coffee. I think it's much better for a first date to go out for some coffee than to have drinks because not everyone has the best control and moderation with drinking. It could be you, or it could be the one that you're taking out to a bar, and things could turn awry really quickly. And you might want to save that for a couple dates in. You might not want to show your truest colors, which aren't even necessarily true because you've been drinking. There's kind of some false confidence that can come into play. Sometimes people can start exhibiting some of their negative traits when drinking. So I think coffee is a great idea because you're sober, coffee is a natural stimulant, you're gonna feel a little bit more happy, a little more excited, you're gonna feel like conversing more. And yeah, it's low cost, low risk. If something goes wrong, whatever. It was a cup of coffee, you'll get over it, she'll get over it, or whatever. Also loving the extra ticket approach because it's really low pressure, right? You're like, oh, hey, I got this extra ticket, my friend canceled, so you want to come hang out? It makes it seem like it wasn't something that you were trying to get them in on from the get-go, because it can feel a little awkward or kind of like a high-pressure situation if someone calls you up or if they see you at the workplace and they're like, hey, do you want to go with me to this basketball game? I'll buy us tickets. I mean, that's great. You're gonna buy tickets and all, but then they're thinking, wow, well, I don't really like basketball. Or say you do like basketball, right? You're still thinking like, I'm gonna feel indebted to this person because they just bought a ticket just for me to go. And if I don't end up liking them, I'm gonna still feel a little obligated to hang out with them. So when you approach it as an extra ticket, it just sort of makes it feel a little bit lower in pressure, a little more casual, and the other person might be a little more willing to just go with it and give it a shot. The other idea I like is a cheesy pickup line. I mean, okay, it's not really a pickup line, I would say, that works. It's just the fact that some humor is being used. So yeah, if it's a cheesy pickup line, I don't think anyone these days uses an actual pickup line seriously. So your only option for a pickup line these days is pretty much a cheesy pickup line. Like, in other words, a pickup line that's so obvious that it's a pickup line that you're just gonna get a laugh out of them. I think humor is always the best way to go. You never wanna seem too serious. Who wants to like hang out with a person for the rest of their lives? They can't take a joke or they can't make a joke. I mean, that's just no good. Humor is always gonna come off as a sign of confidence, as a sign of comfort, a sign of charisma. And that's what you wanna embody, that's what you wanna be, right? When you're coming home after a long day of work, you wanna smile, you wanna laugh, and you wanna smile and laugh with that other person that's with you, right? We're trying to remember, right, that the point of dating is to find someone that you wanna be with for maybe the rest of your life, or maybe if not the rest of your life, at least for a good foreseeable amount of time. So yeah, I think that's a really great idea. Let's start using humor as much as possible. The other one about the cheese, you never know. That could totally backfire too. If you're in France or Italy, where that cheese that he was talking about is from, that just might turn out the right way, or is it the wrong way? Or if you find someone who really loves that crazy cheese, is that a bad thing? I guess it depends on your views on cheese. And as for the points on body language, I think that's something that's very important for men and women to try to research a little bit, because reading someone's body language is a very good way to see if they're actually interested in you or not. You can kind of tell if a woman is interested in you or a man is interested in you by the way that they might be swerving towards you or leaning towards you. You might be sitting next to each other at a coffee shop or at a bar or at a restaurant or on a train or a subway or something, and notice the way that they're positioning themselves relative to you. If you're sitting down, are her knees angled towards you? Are her knees angled away from you? These are things that might tip you off as to whether or not this is going to be an ideal pairing or not. And sometimes before the other person even knows that they're not interested in you, they're already showing it to you by their body language. So you can kind of read that a little bit and kind of either change your approach or kind of refine your approach, or maybe just call it a night, or just say maybe you're better off just being friends. So the more information you can try to get out of the situation without being too direct and making things too awkward or embarrassing for you or the other person, the better. So learn a little bit about body language and see how you can use it to your advantage, and see how you can use it as far as reading into the other person that you are dating. Let's get to the segment of the video that has to do with tips for men who are looking for dates with women, and what those same men would be doing if they were in alternative world trying to date women. Check it out.
Now, we'll examine how a man asks a woman out on the real world, and then how he would approach asking her out in alternative world.
Sure, there are guys who seem to never get shot down when asking a woman out. For the guys who might feel a little shaky, we'll share 7 tips on how to ask a woman out. Here's our take. Number 1, always be mindful of the present moment. Don't think too far ahead about the love affair you'd like to have. Keep in mind those hopes and dreams can crash burn at any time. Number 2, it's always a good idea to avoid using the date word. Don't place too much emphasis on the first adventure. It can make you look desperate, and that's the last thing you want. Think of each outing one at a time. Get to know the person gradually. Number 3, another thing you'll want to avoid is asking a woman to hang out with you. If you say this, the lady may not be clear about your intentions. Does hang out mean you'd like to skateboard or take the BMX bike for a spin? What? Number 4, confidence is important and something women like to see. Be confident when asking a woman out. Your body language and voice patterns will reveal if you aren't. Be polite and expect to hear yes in a graceful way. Good posture is important. Number 5, always put your best foot forward in your approach. You might think it's an outdated saying, but it implies that you'll look presentable when popping the question. Always dress in a way that shows you value yourself. Of course, how you dress is always a personal thing. Number 6, always imagine the situation is going your way. This is all about envisioning success. Another important thing to remember is not to memorize a script. It's far better to let your words and actions flow naturally. Number 7, don't fear rejection. It's kind of a numbers game. The odds are that with each rejection, you'll start getting closer to a yes. You can look at a rejection as gaining experience. This way, a no response won't hurt as much if there is one. It helps to have made a connection before asking her out. Of course, this usually applies to a guy looking for personal chemistry. On the other hand, you may be a guy who's not looking for personal chemistry, and asking a woman out on a whim works just fine. Another good piece of advice is to never rely on liquid courage. You should also ditch any baggage if you were rejected in the past. This is a fast-paced world, and no one wants to attend a pity party. Bring your A game with confidence. Good luck on the adventures!
Here's how men would ask women out in alternative world. Number 1, always be mindful. Are you kidding? You need to always be selling, as the old saying goes. Let your imagination run wild. You're going to crash and burn, so you might as well do it in style. Number 2, don't worry about looking desperate on the first date. Grab at any straw you can find. You already know your Snoopy Sopwith camel plane will get shot down before it ever gets off the runway. Think of this outing as your last. Number 3, it's okay to ask her to hang out with you. She'll get the right message and leave you hung out to dry. Remember, you're an alternative world man, so expect nothing less. Number 4, if you're lacking confidence and about to make your dating pitch, you're already on the road to success. A high-pitched voice and wobbly legs gets the job done like nothing else. Expect to hear no in the most direct way. Number 5, don't worry about looking presentable and putting your best foot forward. I can remember asking a woman out on a date in the real world, looking down at my tie, and being able to tell her what I had for lunch the week before. She felt sorry for me. Man, it could be a move that works in both worlds. Number 6, imagine things will get totally out of control. Try envisioning success, and you might get your feelings hurt upon rejection. And remember, rejection is the goal. And don't worry about memorizing a script. This date is a brush fire that you'll want to ignite naturally. Number 7, yes, embrace rejection. The more no's you hear, the more you're likely to hear. Don't try to bring that plane into the runway for a smooth landing. Take a vertical nosedive. Make sure you ask her out on a whim too. The less prepared you are, the better. She won't know if you're from alternative world or if you stop by for a visit from the real human reality. Oh, and you won't have an A game, so just show up. If you're a man or woman and thinking that you're a resident of both worlds, on occasion, you're not alone. You're going to make some mistakes along the way in asking people out on dates. Just get up and jump right back into the saddle. Or strap a saddle on your backside and let the horse ride for free all the way back to the hacienda. Whatever world you live in, live well.
I love that tip about being present. It applies to so much more than just dating too. I mean, trying to be present in your day-to-day life will actually bring you a whole new sense of peace. Just getting from A to B. You're leaving your house, you're on your way to the bus or your car, you're on your way to the workplace. Be present. Don't be so swamped by your thoughts. Don't be so distracted. Just take moments to enjoy what's going on around you. Notice the birds chirping, feel the breeze blowing against you. This stuff sounds a little wishy-washy and kind of hippy-dippy, but it's real advice and it works. This is something that you hear in speeches by entrepreneurs, by really successful CEOs, and yeah, it applies to dating too. I mean, in a real practical sense, when you're hanging out with someone, would you want to hang out with them if they're distracted, if they're always looking at their phone, checking the notifications, making you feel like you're not as important as their precious Instagram feed? No, that would be horrible. So of course you want to be as present as you can. Look into the other person's eyes. Notice the way they smile. Notice the way that they are coming across, the way they put themselves forth. Be there and be 100% there. Don't be distracted. Don't let yourself be distracted, especially if it's like the first time, the first date you're out there with someone. Definitely do as much as you can to avoid and eliminate all the distractions in your life as you can, and it will pay you back tenfold. And I promise you, your Instagram feed will still be there when the date is done. So there's always that. You can just put that off, put that aside, put your phone on do not disturb, and do yourself a favor, and your date will go much better, okay? The other great tip in there is to avoid the word date. Let me give you a little personal story, okay? The person who I dated, who ended up marrying me, actually, when we first started dating, we didn't date at all. We became friends first. She was working at a coffee shop and we were both in college, and I used to go in the coffee shop and I met her that way, and she was behind the counter serving coffee so I knew where to find her. She couldn't go anywhere, so I mean, I know that sounds like a little creepy, but it's like, okay, I'm not the first and I'm not the last person who has met their future partner at a workplace, at their workplace, so it's not that strange. Anyway, that aside, totally awesome that we became friends first. There was a really low pressure situation. There was no mention of a date, and so we kind of proceeded very naturally from there. Now let's say in your situation it's not quite the same. Maybe it's someone that you work alongside, or someone that you see frequently, or maybe it's someone that you're just eyeing at some kind of an event or a party or a bar. You can always try to strike up a conversation just in a friendly way and see where that goes. And then when you're finally coming to the point where you might be hanging out with them, yeah, don't call it a date. Just do something that friends might do anyway. And then if the chemistry is right, if the signals are there, it might end up having been a date when you're looking back on it, years later. You're like, oh, that was our real first date. I just thought we were hanging out at the park because it was the 4th of July, or because it was Easter Sunday and my family's all far away and I wanted someone to be with, or whatever it might have been. And don't think of it as a date, because that might kind of psych you out. It might make you too nervous, and it might make the other person too nervous if they're so bent out, caught up thinking about what are they gonna do for this date. So definitely avoid that word. It's not really useful to say, see you at 8 for our first date. That's not really going to set you up for success. So I think that's pretty solid advice. Avoid using that word. Just be casual. Just be natural, As far as being casual goes, I do think that saying, hey, do you want to hang out on Wednesday, might just be a little bit too vague, and you want to avoid that. Make it seem like you have some kind of a plan. Still, you don't have to call it a date, but don't say, hey, you want to hang out? Because yeah, it does sound like you're like, oh, me and my bros are gonna go and toss a football around. You just want to come and hang out? No, she doesn't want to come hang out. How about me and some of my friends are gonna go to the beach? We're gonna throw a frisbee around, maybe jump in the water, play some beach volleyball. That sounds like something that's fun. It's not just hang out. It's actually like a plan, It's better on you if it sounds like you have an actual plan of action, or there's some event or activity that's actually gonna happen. So don't be too vague, but still keep it casual. Definitely confidence is gonna be key. And it's tough because you always see these tips and hints on videos and in books, that well, you know, women like a confident man, and of course men like a confident woman too. It's not like it all falls on the man to be a confident person. Everyone likes everyone. Let's all be confident together, okay? I think that's one of the goals for just being a human being, regardless of trying to find your significant other or not. And so you're thinking, that's great. I just got a tip that says be confident, and I'm not really naturally a confident person. Maybe I'm an introvert, maybe I'm kind of shy, maybe I'm just maybe I take a little bit of warming up, you know, or getting to know before I really open up. And that's totally cool. There's still some things that you can do to try to build your confidence. And they're mentioned in the tips that come to follow too, like putting your best foot forward. Wear something a little nicer than you might have thought to wear, you know, but don't make it something so nice that you're losing your confidence because you feel too formal. Personal hygiene can go a long way. Boost your self-confidence. Do something the day of the date that will boost your confidence, like going on a run or doing some other kind of exercise activity or doing some yoga, which could also bring you some peace of mind. If you like going to the gym, maybe work out, but work out early enough in the day so that you're not all like huffy and puffy and sweaty when you go to meet the person that you're gonna go on a date with. But yeah, I think some activities like that could help definitely boost your confidence and just put you a little bit more on the top of your game that evening when you're gonna go meet up with that person. I definitely also think that one of the most important things you could do is just be yourself. You hear it so much, it sounds so cliche that it almost doesn't have that much meaning, but it's true, you know, and that's why I think starting off as friends is sometimes good advice, because you're yourself with your friends. You're not trying to put something else on. When you go into a job interview, you're not trying to be yourself, right? You're trying to put all these other things forward. You're trying to put them out there for your potential future employer. But when you're finding yourself on your first date with a person, you're gonna wanna be yourself as much as possible, because on that second or third date, once you become more and more comfortable, you're either gonna be trapped having to be that fake person that you first showed them, or you're gonna start being yourself and then they're gonna start wondering why you were inauthentic when they first met you. And it's actually twofold, right? Because if you're not your authentic self, those moments when you first meet that significant other, you're going to be attracting a person who is attracted to that other person that you just made up and put forth because you think that that's what they want. So if that's what that person wants from someone, let them go find whoever is that person for real, you know? There's someone out there who's meant for you, the way you are, that's going to like you and eventually love you for who you are, exactly who you are, you know, without having to put up any walls or barricades or try to put on any masks before every time you go and see them or hang out with them, right? If the goal in dating is to find like a permanent partner or a committed relationship, that's someone that you're going to spend a lot of time with. You're not going to want to spend all that time putting up a front, being a fake person. Would you? Would you want them to be doing that for you too? Like, think about that. This person that you just met, you think they're so great, they have a beautiful smile and they have such a great sense of humor and you love the way they smell and you love everything that they're into and you like their friends. But then you found out that that's not actually them, like that's not the real them. Wouldn't that kind of hurt you? I mean, it would definitely turn you off. And it might make you ditch them altogether. You might go for another person. You might start dating again. So definitely just be yourself. And that's a sign of true confidence. Someone who can just be themselves just the way that they are, you know, because they have accepted themselves. You should accept yourself. Be that truest person. Be that person that you really are. And I think you're going to find that the other person that you're approaching is going to accept you much more readily. And even if they don't, at least you put your best foot forward, you tried your best, and you were yourself. You were your authentic self. And it's just practice for more dates in the future, you know? Definitely loving the advice about not being afraid of rejection. Don't be afraid of rejection. You know, the more times up to bat, the more your odds are of getting a home run. So all you can do is try, all you can do is be yourself and give it your best shot, you know? I think it's solid advice. That's pretty much it for this video, guys. I'm off to my next adventure. Hope you got some tips, and if not, hope at least you got some laughs out of it. If you like what you heard, if you have any personal stories, please let us know in the comments below, and like and subscribe for more great content from us here at Broadview. Thanks, guys. Have a good day. Take care.